All right. My name is Herb Mitchley. I'm the CEO of Shodogg, and really is a pleasure to be here. And I think for me, when I come to these events, I always have a tough time because I want to buy everything. And I think the two other companies tonight were really impressive. We're a little small for the first, but Doc-Curated, we're going to talk to you by the end of the night. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm up here actually with our co-founders, Jamie Cohen and David. We didn't want to take up too much room, so David will come up in a minute. And actually what we're using tonight is a mobile device, and we're connecting to a browser, and there's no content in this room. And I want to make sure that's clear, that we haven't loaded anything up. Everything's coming from the cloud. Then we're going to talk through what that technology actually means. We'll go through the overview of the company, talk a little bit about our patented technology, which I think is really important to understand where we're going to go with the technology. We're going to talk a lot about enterprise sales and our presentation platform. Talk a lot about what pain we're solving and how it can be customizable depending on the business as well as the customers that we're signing up. Our solution, obviously, Screen Direct, and the future of the company, where we're going. So some highlights. We were founded, actually the technology was invented in 2011 by a college professor who figured out a way to circumvent the download restrictions on his campus and came up with a very interesting technology we patented. We have 14 employees in 2 offices across New York City and Australia and Sydney. We've raised $3 million in angel funding with a lead being Ron Lauder and the Lauder Group. And we've won a few awards, most notably the Mobile Excellence Award at CES for Best Delivery Platform, beating out companies like Akamai and AT&T before we'd even launched our first product. There's our ugly mugs. We have backgrounds in consumer products, in technology, in media, and in international. And the rest of our team also round out a great array of technologists, business development, and highly skilled programmers. And so what I'd like to do is hand it over to Jamie. We didn't know we'd have one mic, so we're going to try and do this as fluidly as possible. That was not very fluid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name's Jamie Cohen. So we're going to talk to you about the technology, and as Herb mentioned, it's important to understand kind of what the technology does before we explain the product. We have patented technology that allows any mobile device to connect and direct any digital content, any screen that's web-enabled. But what powers this technology is a patent called a swappable media player, and that allows us to access various repositories and files within them and move them to second screens. We can move PowerPoint, PDF, MP4, YouTube, and again, none of that content resides on this device or on that screen. I'm using this device to set a protocol to this screen to reach out to those clouds and grab the content. So what I'm going to do real quick is just give you an example of how the swappable media player works. So this PowerPoint presentation is coming from Dropbox. I'm going to move you over to an Amazon PDF file, and you could see the transition in file, and now we're on a Dropbox PDF to a YouTube video, and every time we move you can see that we swap media players, and this is the YouTube media player, and what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to move from this YouTube media player over to an MP4 that's back on Dropbox, and you'll see that not only the file changes but the media player stays intact. And so it goes from YouTube to MP4. I have full control over the video. So I can pause, I can fast forward, I can rewind, and I can control the volume, which I'll do right now. I'll play again. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's what our swappable media player does. It allows us to move seamlessly between file types and between repositories. So, and as I said, I use YouTube, Dropbox, and Amazon to access those files and direct them down to the screen. So we took that technology and we harnessed it into a product we call Screen Direct. Screen Direct allows you to mobily prepare, present, and follow up all from the palm of your hand using our mobile application with content that's coming directly from your server repository. It was simple for me to connect. I went to a URL, screendirect.tv. It gave me a 6-digit code. I input that code into the application, and now I've made a connection between this screen and this device. This screen becomes an open receiver. For enterprise, as I said, I can move PowerPoint, MP4, YouTube, and PDF. But if we were talking to NASA, we could do geospatial imaging. If it was a hospital, we could do X-rays. This is basically an open receiver to whatever it is that you want to send to it, as long as you're connecting to a repository that has that file. But there are other benefits that come along with our technology. One of them being that we allow you to hold on to your files. We're not a company that asks you to give us your files. You can access them directly from your repository. There's no need to maintain separate databases. And everything that you're seeing here, these are not files that are being downloaded. You're merely seeing an image of the file itself, and so there's no sharing or reproducing without the permission of the content owner. We're agnostic. That's to device, to operating system, to browser. It's important to enterprise because it means that every screen in every room in every building becomes an opportunity for you to communicate. And don't just look at this as an opportunity to go into a sales meeting and actually communicate, but an opportunity to walk into somebody's office, walk into a conference room, or connect with somebody who's in another country but's in front of a web-enabled screen. And we can not just do a one-to-one as I'm doing now with this screen, but I have the ability to connect to as many screens as I want. I can add them on the go, or I can send out an invitation before the meeting that provides a link to wait for the host to arrive. Or the reverse of that, which would be, let's say, a CEO standing up in front of a room and having a support staff in the audience that's presenting contextually relevant slides as he's discussing his market. And at the end of the day, it's the analytics and the big data that gets a lot of our enterprise clients excited. Our ability to track every single piece of information that's shared. So after this meeting and after I'm done closing out of the application, I'll receive an email that'll tell me all the files that were shared. I can see how long I presented for, what slides I used, what files I used. There's really no limitation to the data that we can attain. I'm going to pass this back to Herb.
All right. So, just to highlight a couple things, I think, we get compared a lot, especially standing in a room, to technologies like peer-to-peer, AirPlay, Chromecast, where the device is actually connecting to another device directly. And what we really thought through was, as all these devices are connecting to the internet, if you make the connection on the internet, you can make the entire process agnostic and move content regardless of location. So we liken it to a landline versus a mobile phone. When you made the first call on a mobile phone inside your house, you didn't really know the difference, but when you walked out of your house, you did. So I've actually given presentations late to meetings in a cab where I didn't want to cancel because as a startup you don't want to cancel on the VC, but I also didn't want to share my content with that VC. No disrespect to any VCs in the house. That was terrible. All right, so ultimately for us, what we went after was we saw the pain in enterprise, and our first major partner is Hewlett-Packard, where we're actually powering the back-end presentation process for both the internal and external sales process. So both for internal sales use as well as their channel partners. And this number, 175,000, is extremely important to HP and to us, because that's the number of people that they need to manage that come through the HP system. Don't necessarily work for HP, but sell HP product and represent HP either directly or indirectly. And it's also a big number for us, so we like that number. And when we talked to them, what we realized was, this entire list of pains we helped solve in some capacity. So from an analytics perspective, knowing who was presenting what and how they presented it was extremely important, because a lot of times with channel partners, they tend to present and you're not really sure who they're talking to. Version control issues. We're not necessarily version control ourselves, but we're pulling from the original server, so you're always getting the latest and greatest file. And we found that once they emailed files out to their channel partners, they were using them well beyond their shelf date. The implementation process for us was great, because most of the channel partners use devices, and buying 175,000 iPads that are going to become outdated 6 months later is extremely expensive for some of the large enterprise customers. And as we see BYOD and BYOC start to evolve, we think making it easier to access the devices that people are already using is extremely important. And this is one of our key points, is the multiple servers. So when we went out, HP was really excited, because they said, well, now we can use the HP cloud and the HP streaming service and give this to our channel partners. And the first thing we heard for every channel partner was, great, but I use Box and Dropbox and I want to customize my presentations. Well, through the same application, you can upload that content directly, and it becomes a seamless process to move from one place to another with analytics behind it. And most importantly, we believe that the brand should retain that equity. So if you use other, presentation platforms, you see their logos all over the place. And with HP, we believe that they should own the receiving screen, and we'll show you just how easy it is to actually create that receiving screen and own that brand. If you think about 175,000 people doing one presentation a week, that's a lot of impressions that HP can gather just through the sales presentation process. So these are some of the analytics that we have collected. Top files presented, follow-up and close rate. We're actually integrating directly into their CRM, which is Salesforce.com. They signed an 8-figure deal, and they didn't have a way to actually analyze the presentation process. They analyzed from the time a deal was registered to the time a deal was closed. Well, most of the time, the key parts is presentation and registration process. Version control, like I said, we can. You're pulling from the original source, so they can update those files on the fly. The ability to bring your own device, the seamless integration into those devices was obviously key. I talked a little bit about the multiple servers, and now onto brand equity. So HP wanted a very clean experience. They wanted to own it every time that somebody was giving a presentation. They wanted the HP logo. We can insert advertising. We can insert a logo when they first connect to the screen. So if there's a message they want to get out to their staff, they can do that here. We also have created a couple receiving screens for our friends that were here tonight, so Docurated, and Ditto isn't here, but if they were, they would see that. And then obviously our friends at Honey. And we've been able to do this in as little as a minute if we can find the images the right way using our back-end platform. So I'm going to keep talking because we're switching back and forth. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the other customers. So, obviously HP being a large enterprise customer, what we've done is building that back-end platform. We found other use cases. So one of the larger media companies that we'll be announcing soon is using this not just for the sales presentation process and delivering video in a very unique way, but they found a very pain point because they have all these screens in the offices, and communicating with individuals that work in the same office sometimes is just as difficult. So they're creating an address book that says John Smith. I want to get something to John Smith. His receiving screen pops up at his desk, and you can start to view images, and you can track exactly what's happening. And this is kind of an on-the-go directory of how that would look. The next use case is we find a lot of problems with compliant-driven industries, specifically the financial services field, where they can't let files leave their servers. So if you're pulling from the original server and you're not necessarily downloading that, you're actually in compliance with FINRA, which gives you a very huge opportunity to not only deliver a presentation, but also from a legal perspective, if you had a client who said, I never saw that, now you have a time-stamped time. That didn't make sense, but metrics, thank you, that basically said this was actually presented at that time. So you're really starting to get analytics that help from a legal perspective as well. Now, what we haven't talked about and what's on the pipeline is think about my connection as a one-to-one where I'm controlling, but imagine everybody in this room could log into the same code that I had, and I can pull questionnaires, or you can give me feedback and response. And what we're developing next is the ability to have the customer actually give true feedback, which can be integrated in real time into a CRM, which a lot of times the problem is a very manual situation where it's a bit of a telephone game. We have a meeting and you say it's a good meeting, but it might not be as good. So the customer actually has the capability to actually talk directly to you and integrate it directly into a CRM. We're talking a little bit about our team. We have obviously a great staff, but we also have great advisors and investors in the company. When Seth invested in the business, he saw this as a content owner and a content producer that embodied his need to be able to share half-baked ideas without actually losing control. Jonathan Carson was the former CEO at Nielsen, and he looked at it and said, the analytics that you guys are pulling together are tremendous and can change the way that we share content in the future. And Joe Yuva is a major media professional who looked at our ability to deliver content in its original format without that grainy latency that a lot of other technologies do, allow you to sell better because of the money you spend on those video players are now being delivered in the original format. And so that's us at a nutshell. But what I'd like to do is actually walk you through a little bit of the portal so you have an idea of what it looks like on the back end. And then we're going to have David to come up. 3 minutes? Sure. So basically what you're able to do is log in to the back-end portal. Now think about the portal for enterprise as a place where you can access and manage all the user permissions. And we can also use the permissions that you have already set up within your organization. So you can add files here that you can pull from multiple areas, whether it be a Dropbox or Box or from your personal computer. You can set up folders for your entire organization that are shared across different levels of the organization. So if you wanted VPs to only have access to certain files, they would automatically have access to those files in their mobile application that they would be able to move to second screens. For us, we can obviously add companies. You can add users to that very, very easily. I want to talk through the template where we can actually set up, for instance, if we wanted to go to I'll use Docurated. We actually came in here earlier, and you can set up welcome messages. So if I wanted to put, my name, Herb, right? So I can preview actually what's happening, and you can actually start to see on the fly, what do I want my customers to potentially see along the way, so that this is a much more customized presentation for them.
And I'll just make one last point. When we're coming out with the next iteration of the application, it'll be even more mobile than it is today. Currently, we're using the portal to access the files that we want to be able to get to load into the system, but we have an app that's ready to go to market that actually, on the fly, you'll be able to access Dropbox, YouTube, and any other repository of choice simply through the mobile application. Set the file in the cloud so that it's always ready for you to be able to push to a second screen.
And the last, I'm trying to load the analytics dashboard, but basically what you're able to do is come in, look at the total number of users in real time, who gave presentations, what files did they use, and start to share that across the company. So as Jamie said, we're really looking at this in two different ways, from an enterprise perspective and using the portal for access and permissions, but also launching an application for small, medium-sized business that you can use the mobile device to actually access your repositories on the go, download those files, or seemingly download those files, access them, and be able to move them very quickly. And I would like for David to step up real quick and just talk a little bit about where we see this going as a company as it relates to the APIs, the access, and the development.
Okay, I'll talk faster than Jamie. No.
That's possible.
So we're very excited time for us. We just completed the delivery on the HP application, and the Screen Direct application is available on both the Play and iTunes Store. The application that Jamie was talking about with the ability to access your Dropbox on the fly and then be able to present is today approved on the store and ready for release, so that should be up shortly. So if you go to the stores and just search for Screen Direct, you'll be able to find those applications. But the vision of this application was even grander than what you see here today. I liken it to Evernote, that we have an application, but we also want to develop a platform behind it and let others in the development community build upon the APIs that we currently have. So we're right now, if you're interested in becoming a developer, using our APIs to push content that you may have or to aggregate content on different sources, there's email us at info@shodogg.com. It's in the beginning stages. It's not an open to general release, but we're really looking for interested developers both to customize the application or to build applications that we haven't even thought about yet. So if you're interested, please email me. I'll get back to you shortly, and you'll be one of the first few developers to get on our system, provide us valuable feedback, but also allow us to understand how this technology can be really used in the future.
2 seconds left. Questions?
Yes.
Talk about FINRA
Oh,
compliance.
sorry.
Will it also be relevant to HIPAA compliance?
Yeah.
And can a small startup afford you?
Yeah, so we didn't put the pricing up, but our enterprise package is basically $15 a month per user. So if you're using a screen sharing technology, a lot of times they're much more expensive because we're not forcing you to use our hosting facilities. We just direct to yours. So for us, there's a cost savings as a company, down as low as $5 a month for an individual user.
I love you.
I love you. Thanks.
Are you interested in strategic partners?
Absolutely. In fact, I said before, we looked at Documented Guys and how you can grab a file and then move that to a second screen. It's all about access and control and the analytics behind it. I think it's fantastic.
What's your email address?
I invited my mom tonight. See you afterwards. I'll give it to you.
Alex, did you have a question? Or,
Concerned at all
sorry.
about users being able to just do a screen grab of any material they're being presented with?
People have asked us that before, and I think there's ways to make it more secure. I think the initial concepts were more of just being able to access and deliver and analyze. If people are going to do bad things and take screenshots, what we've talked about is actually we can watermark it so you know exactly when the presentation was given. And so based on the analytic behind that, you would know who you presented to. And that's really a case-by-case basis for us. Go ahead. Oh, there you're sitting. I was looking for you.
Basically, do you guys prefer to sell to the users, or do you prefer to sell from to the
Enterprise.
company?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think for us to start, only because we're building out the platform, the larger companies, the use cases for us were helping us build out where we saw the platform going. So that was really a main target for us. And spending 6 months in beta with HP and their channel partners really helped us round out what we felt would be a much more useful product for users. But I think as we develop, we're really, information's information. As a young startup, we loved it because we actually created the product initially. We were looking to go into the media business, and didn't want to email our files out. And we said, well, why don't we just use our own technology to move the content? And it snowballed from there. So I think for us, the beginning was looking at large enterprise and trying to fix those needs, and then ultimately moved down to the lower end.
Just on that point, what do you wish you had known at the beginning that you know now?
Oh man, 15 minutes or longer. I think for us it was we've talked about it before, trying to find the exact case and be a little bit more focused, because I think part of the problem we have even today is because it can be any server type, server location, content type. We have a lot of the questions. Can you do this? Can you do that? And I always say it's like the Pretty Woman moment, where like, what's your name? Like, what do you want your name to be? That was always the hardest part for us, is we could do so much. And it wasn't until we found this enterprise piece that we really feel that we were solving something in enterprise. Our longer term goal is to move into consumer and publishing, but enterprise is really pain points, but also the market was there. Browsers were really the main use case. People weren't really using connected TVs like you were in consumer and publishing. So it was a place where we can really make a big impact.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that you look back and you say, well, we should have known this and we should have known that. Enterprise really is a good fit for our technology, but the other platforms, the other areas that we moved into, which was in the hospitality space and in media, helped us build the back end and the learning. So it's something you say, well, I wish we started off in enterprise first, but look at all the things that we've learned and what we've gained throughout the year that we've developed the platform.
Thank you. Do you connect with an audio feature to conference calls remotely?
Yep.
Well, one of the things we're looking at is trying to find a web-based solution so you don't have to have a plugin. So you can go to any screen and right here push that in. And we're really interested in web RTC. That allows you to do screen capturing, screen sharing, audio and video conferencing from a mobile device or whatever browser you may have to another browser.
And what we've said, our first few customers have the conference calling capabilities already, but I think for us it's either we will develop it, or more importantly, once we open up the platform a bit more, maybe somebody else develops that plugin for us.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.